if Deku was Captain Marvel Part 3? Now, I got a commission for this what if, a comment. I also have another what if I'm also going to be recording later today. And I'm sorry, guys, I haven't been on my page lately. I haven't really been uploading lately. I've just been out of the zone. I've been out of the, thing. I've just been out of the zone. I haven't been motivated lately, and I haven't been really having the time to do anything. And when I do have the time to do anything, I just don't want to do anything. I just want to sit down and watch videos. But I have to do this grind, and I have to actually, put effort into something I want in the future for me to have a YouTube career. Also, later this year, maybe Christmas time, I will be starting to do uploadings, recording video recordings, and stuff like that. So, you guys enjoy the video, and let's dive right into this fanfiction. Part 3 of What If Deku Was Captain Marvel. Now, last left off after Deku was thrown into a van by what appears to be a woman with an invisibility quirk and a boy, a man with a fire quirk. Deku would have been dropped off by some sort of high-class building that was incredibly tall. As he would have walked to the building, as he would have been greeted by some sort of mutation quirk user with some sort of rocky skin, about 6-7 feet tall. As Deku would be kind of shocked by this, but he would say, hey, as this man would have introduced himself as Ben Grimm. As everybody would introduce themselves as Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Reed Richards as being the last one to introduce himself. As they all introduced themselves as the Fantastic Four, as Deku would instantly recognize them from a nearby older, fan comic book he had on Quirk Heroes in the modern world on America, as we realized that these were the top hero team in America at the time. Here in this very current time, they are the top superhero team and organization, as they also taught other children in that organization and program being called the Future Foundation down in America or the U.S. As Deku would have been like, "What the? Am I being drafted into the Future Foundation?" As everybody would kind of be a little bit, quiet. As Johnny would have done something sarcastically saying, "Kid, you're too young. I'm pretty sure we wouldn't let you in." As everybody starts to, not really giggle, but they look at Johnny and just look at him weird. But Johnny would have started to talk to Deku, saying that we've seen you around and we know your powers and you look very similar to Kree experimentation. As they would have started to talk to him, and they would have given him back lore over Skrulls in the comic universe, or in this universe, Skrulls being the same type of beings and same personality and same goal as they have like in the comics. But the goal being changed a little bit, as they're mainly here on Earth to convert all humans to the Skrull Empire and to make humans a part of the Skrull Empire, even though mutants are the Skrulls are incredibly powerful. Some of them are. As the Skrulls want to be and want to take over the, human population, but it's a lot harder in this world, since everybody in this world most likely has a power to defend themselves or has a quirk. As what would happen is, Deku would have been told that his powers were unique, powerful, even world-breaking, disaster-making levels of planet-destroying potential and power. As if Deku even had one bad day and he went all out, he could kill everybody on the face of the earth. He could take out the sun if he really wanted to. As Deku was told that his powers were incredibly powerful and beyond capability and beyond anything they've ever seen before. They've seen it in other beings, including the Super Skrull, as they haven't been able to find him since their first encounter about 20 years ago. As this would be more of an older version of the Fantastic Four, as Johnny in this term would be about 29, almost 30, and everybody else being about 40-ish in their 40s or 50s. As it would have been a very older type of organization, and then being in their Future Foundation suits, their white and black suits. As Johnny would still be alive in the Future Foundation type of uniform, as he would have been, obviously still alive. As in this universe, as Johnny would have started to talk a little bit more, basically running over this conversation and making it a little bit more funnier and a lot more kid-friendly to appeal to Deku's more, thingamajig, more of his teenage appeal, but Deku not really taking it and actually taking a more approach and listening to Reed more than anybody else. As Ben would have taken Deku to the side, telling him that his powers are incredibly powerful, but that they want to run tests on him to see if if he's a threat to himself or the people, or if his powers are, we could say, stable. As Deku would have done these tests, Reed putting him through some tests and some power endurance, seeing what his limitations are. As the team offers Deku, well, not really a sponsorship, but at the time for them to train him. As Deku takes off the offer and says, definitely. As they're told that they're going to have an offer, and are told that, well, no, they're not told, but they tell Deku that he has that offer and that he will be trained by them for the preceding couple of months, and maybe until he graduates UA if he wants to keep on training with them. As Deku agrees and accepts. The next day, Deku goes back to school after being dropped off last night by Johnny. As Deku is going home, as he's interrupted and walked by, well, Johnny. As Johnny tells him that he's here, basically talk to him. As Johnny starts to talk to him, basically make small talk, as he eventually stops near the gates of UA and tells him to have a nice day. As, well, Deku says, well, this is Japan. Don't you guys have to be down in America, the US, for the future foundation thing? As Johnny says, well, I'm your designated trainer. Our powers are similar in terms of, well, more emitter-type based powers. As also Johnny says that I have to tell you a secret about our powers. They aren't really, I'll tell you later. But have a nice day at school, Midoriya, and don't get into too much, well, trouble. As Johnny flies off, going flame on. As Deku just walks in to the gates, as everybody is shocked to see this, as there's a crowd of people now around the UA gates, as they're shocked to see Deku with one of the top ranked heroes in the US, down in Japan. As Deku starts to walk through the gates and get almost paraded by press, as Deku eventually just tries to run past them, eventually getting inside, as some students from the front of the entrance would have noticed this, and news would have spread around very quickly. During this time, the class would have gone somewhere the same, as Deku would eventually go to lunch, as he would have been, approached by Ida. As Ida, not approached by Ida, but he would have been told to talk to Ida. As Ida would have talked to Deku, as Deku would have just talked to him, as Ida would try to, smooth things over, as Ida tries to apologize, as he was going a little bit too ham on Deku. But Deku saying he could take it, and that I was being very harsh to you, me ripping off your armor, and it looked very expensive. As Ida says, he can afford more, and he can make more, or he can fix it. As they start to talk a little bit, as we see that, well, Ochaku jumps in as well. As they start to talk around, and eventually, truth comes out after they talk a little bit, that, well, Todoroki's father is Endeavor. Also, news comes out that Ida's father, not Ida's father, but Ida's family and brother are pro heroes. A whole family of pro heroes, actually. As Deku's kind of surprised by this, as they all start to talk a little bit and socialize. Eventually, later on, we get told that, well, the alarms went off. The alarms go off, and everybody is kind of shocked and kind of going and went crazy and stuff. Eventually, we see that a whole crowd happens, and Deku realizes that it was just a little alarm, and nothing's really going on. He tries to tell Ochaku to go upstairs and tell everybody that there's nothing really happening, or tell Ochaku to get him up there, but Ochaku, in this canon, not in this, universe, she was pushed down, though, as she's way farther away from Deku as he expected. As Deku just takes the opportunity to just fly up there, because throughout the chaos, he kind of forgot he could fly, but he just flew up there and just tells everybody that it was just a false alarm, and for everybody to calm down. As everybody calms down, eventually after Deku has to explain or have to be a little bit more persuasive, but eventually Deku calms everybody down. Deku flies past everybody and eventually comes down to the floor. As we get told, 4 minutes later, about 30 minutes later, on the announcements that it was just a false alarm. As doing this whole thing or ordeal, everybody would go back to class, and everybody would come across back in their class, as Aizawa would have told everybody that they're going to the USJ. As everybody's, kind of confused, but also very excited by this. As they all get dressed up in their hero costumes, especially Deku getting his clean, fit Marvel outfit, as he would have gotten into the van, not a van, but into the bus. Sorry, I'm out of my zone. But let's get back to the story. So we see that Deku starts to talk around, eventually coming across Ida, sitting next to Ida between Ochaku. As I would start to talk a little bit and flirt, Deku being a little bit more, a little flirtatious with Ida. I mean, not Ida. A little bit flirtatious with Ochaku. Just going with the flow. Eventually, they're interrupted when the bus stops, and eventually everybody is told to get ready. So everybody gets out the bus as everybody starts to walk around, as Deku just looks at himself through one of the mirrors on the side of the windows in the USJ as he looks around the building and sees a bunch of buildings, rooftops, and a crap ton of other things and different areas that are all sorts of different grounds for natural disasters. As they're eventually introduced to the number 5 hero, number 13. As number 13 starts to talk to them, as she explains that quirks are very powerful, but yet very dangerous, as their power can lead to a bunch of, natural disasters, murder, and a bunch of other things, and crime as well, and hurting other people you love and care if your quirk isn't contained. And it is our job to know our limitations and to be able to stop those occurrences from happening and hurting more people if they do happen. So, she gives a whole speech about quirks, a little bit more in-depth, but everybody is giving the gist of it. As Deku looks around and he senses something off, like a tingle in his hair. As Deku looks over and he sees a black dot, and it instantly opens in a matter of seconds into a huge portal, and villains start pouring out. As Ida is shocked by this, also Deku going into a fighting stance, him channeling up some energy in his hands, as Ochaku is kind of scared out of her mind. Azawa eventually jumps in and tells 13 to get the students out of here now, as he starts to fight against the monsters. But fight against the, villains. Get back, villains, now! We would have seen that one villain would have came towards Azawa. Azawa started to hit him in a 2-piece wombo combo chicken biscuit. Give him a 2-piece chicken biscuit with a Popeye's biscuit, no honey, giving him the 2-hand 1-piece. As he would have started to body majority of 50 to 70 more of these villains, just taking them out like cannon fodder. As Azawa would have been seeing the students get ran off by 13. 13 would have tried to get them out there, but he would have been stopped by, Kirigiri. Kirigiri would have stopped them, basically bodying 13 because of the, bullcrap Bakugo and Kirishima were trying to do the fight, basically making 13 miss her shot. As everybody would have been scattered around by Kirigiri, as Deku would have fell down from the sky into the water area. Him stopping himself before he hit the ground, levitating off the water and flying upwards. As he would have looked around, as Deku would have flew around the whole building, basically flying down to the boat, seeing, everybody there, seeing Mineta and Froppy over there just on the boat, shocked and scared. As one of the villains would have tried to jump on the boat, as Deku would have hit him with the energy blast, knocking him out cold. Deku would have grabbed Mineta and Froppy and flew him off the boat. As it would have flew off the boat, them getting hit by some sort of water blast, one of the villains in the water would have had some sort of power kinetic ability, pushing Deku out of the sky. Deku would have allowed a temp before he fell into the water, exposing the rest of his teammates or his students, as he would have thrown Mineta on near the, bridge. Sorry, I can't speak for crap. The bridge. As he would have also chucked Froppy into a nearby building through some windows. As Froppy would have been okay, but slightly cut up. As Deku would have fell into the water, as Deku would have flew out of the water, but him being grabbed by some sort of muscly dude that kind of gave off, King Orca type vibes. As he would have chucked Deku back into the water, trying to drown him. As multiple villains would have started to swarm Deku and punch him and basically water jump him. As eventually Deku would get so pissed off, his eyes would start to glow underwater. And the water would start to bubble and boil as the water around him would have started to increase in temperature and become even more hotter and hotter and hotter. Eventually him literally burning the water as he moves faster and faster. Him basically burning through these fodder cannon villains, making huge black marks on their bodies, punching holes and imprints of his knuckles inside their chest and on their faces, and basically bodying all of them in a matter of about 5 minutes. Deku flying out of the water, being drenched in water, but his suit being slightly, completely hot, like straight up freshly iron type hot and dry, as he would have been burning his body with this kinetic energy that he got after getting punched and pummeled under the water, plus him being Superman and some sort of other parts of his abilities would have started to activate. Deku laying down Superman pose right in front of the attack, where eventually All Might would have showed up fighting the Nomu. The Nomu would have started to overpower Deku, as Deku would have tried to jump in through this whole fight, as he would have been overpowered by the, Nomu. As the Nomu would have pushed Deku down to the ground. As in this universe, the Nomu would have been green, though, with some sort of beak, like it having grooves on the bottom of the beak, like, a certain alien species in the Marvel Universe. As Deku would have started to look closer, him noticing that it was kind of like what Fantastic Four showed him on the screens. They were telling him about the scrolls. It looked like a scroll, but a hybrid of quirk users. As he would have started to get pummeled down by the Nomu, as Nomu was double tagging All Might and him at the same time. All Might would have told Deku to distract him as he tries to go for a Detroit Smash, as Deku would have jumped in between one of the punches that was about to land on All Might's face, as he would have grabbed the punch full force, making a huge shockwave behind him. As Deku would have reconnected that energy back to the Nomu, hitting him with a clean uppercut, knocking his bottom jaw clean off, Superior Spider-Man Scorpion style. As he would have cut his whole jaw, he freaking pushed the absolute shit out of the Nomu's jaw, punching it clean off, tongue and everything, as it would have been a gruesome sight to behold. As All Might would have been shocked by this. All Might would have been shocked by this. As Deku would have taken another punch back to back, absorbing all the kinetic energy the Nomu's throwing on him and redirecting it even harder, plus his powers back on the Nomu. Eventually, the Nomu getting pummeled down to the ground, as the Nomu would eventually try to mimic Deku's powers. As Deku would have been shocked by this. As well, we will see the Nomu had the capabilities of the Super Scroll, but on a very, very weakened level. As he would have mimicked Deku's powers, but it would have been like on a 13%, as his powers would still be a lot more weaker than Deku's original powers. As he would have started to take more hits, but him realizing they were a lot more weaker than his actual hits. Deku throwing one clean upper punch after taking about 50 to 60 body shots by the Nomu. Deku coughing up blood and actually crying blood, as Deku would have hit him with a clean uppercut, knocking the Nomu's face and whole entire fucking head clean off, decapitating the Nomu. As Nomu would have fallen to the ground, as Deku would have started to burn his body, using his powers to basically disintegrate the Nomu's body so he can't regenerate back. So we would see that Deku would have taken down the Nomu one-handed, as All Might would have been in the back, being shocked by this sight. Eventually, about 10 minutes later, the pro heroes would have shown up, shot the absolute dog water out of Shigaraki's kneecaps, making him go down and dirty, down. Falling to my knees type shit. As he would have started to, see this from afar, as things would have gone very differently. As a lot more villains would be captured, and a lot of things would have gone down south. Froppy would have had a little bit of a cast on, but Recovery Girl fixing her up. Ida would have been good. Everybody would have been good. Mineta would have been shocked and actually, let's just say traumatized for the rest of his life. And basically, everybody would see Deku as more of a stronger class member and classmate than they can ever imagine. And Todoroki and Bakugo even getting more, hostile with Deku, seeing him as a bigger rival than ever. And they need to become stronger. They need to become faster. They need to become on his level. As eventually, we get hit with the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And next episode will be a lot more solved through. And also, I'll put a lot more lore into the scrolls in this universe and how they play a part in All For One's plan. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. I hope you enjoy my new outro and intro.